Hello everyone, welcome back to my YouTube channel, and today I'm going to be giving my opinions, my thoughts, my predictions, whether or not Newcastle United can actually finish in the top 4 this season. I know what you're thinking, it probably isn't going to happen, it won't happen, there's no way on God's green earth this will actually be pulled off by Newcastle and Eddie Howe. But look how Newcastle were last year, look what the old regime led them to. They were nearly relegated, but new life was brought in terms of the manager and the players, and they were able to finish 10th last season, and now they've started the season so great, fantastic, phenomenal, getting signature wins against Tottenham, picking up draws to Manchester United and Manchester City, hanging with the best sides in England, and also dominating the smaller sides, winning 4-0 against Fulham, beating Aston Villa, beating other sides like Brentford as well by a great scoreline. So honestly, anything can happen this season, as we are being shown, like Arsenal and Newcastle. If there's any time to do it in terms of a season, it's this year. You got the momentum, and obviously you got the players right now, I think, to pull this off with a great manager. So in this video, I'm going to be talking about 3 or 4 factors to give my opinions whether or not Newcastle are strong enough when it comes to their squad, players, and better than their opposition. However, before going this video and give my predictions, you know I'm going to say, make sure you guys like, comment, and hit that big subscribe button right there. And make sure you guys give me your own predictions. Do you think Newcastle United can pull off a miracle and finish in the top 4? So the first factor I'm going to be talking about when it comes to Newcastle's prospects of finishing the top 4 this season, it has to go down to the manager. And I always say, you can have a great car with a great engine, with great tyres, great leather seats, it can look fantastic, you can have all the parts, but if you don't have the right driver, the right leader, it's not going to get anywhere. You're not going to pull off the fastest lap on track. So it was so important that Newcastle got the suitable manager to replace Steve Bruce and actually bring them success. And that's what Eddie Howe has been doing this season. He is potentially right now the best English manager in the Premier League as we speak. And honestly, I'm glad he's gotten his chance at a better club compared to Bournemouth, because he finally has not only the funds and the players to pull off why he's actually one of the best managers within this league. There's so much to like about Eddie Howe. There's so much. First of all, I feel like he's a great individual manager. He knows how to get the best out of his players, even if they seem average. We literally saw this at Bournemouth, where it was year after year they were punching above their weight, but Eddie Howe, with his system, with his ability to coach players up to their potential, they achieved great success. We're seeing it this season already. Players like Almiron, players like Joe Linton. Think about it, 2 or 3 years ago, these guys were the laughingstock of the Premier League. People were saying they weren't good enough. People were memeing them when it came to Newcastle. But now they are playing lights out this season. Almiron has turned into a goal machine. Joe Linton has proved to be one of the best solid box-to-box midfielders in the Premier League as we speak. And it's all down to Eddie Howe maximising their ability, having trust and faith in them that they can pull through and perform up to optimum levels. But that's not the only thing I love about Eddie Howe. It's that his system is paying off. I love the fact that Eddie Howe is a student of the modern game. He knows you need 8s to run from box to box. Players like Joe Linton, Willock, even Guimaraes showing that energy and fight and tenacity to run up and down the pitch. He knows this is so vital, and it's been so crucial when it comes to Newcastle's counter-pressing whenever they lose the ball, to succeed to winning it back and counter-attacking on oppositions. He also understands that Trippier is one of the best crosses in the league. That's why he allows him to play as almost a wing-back down that right-hand side, bombing on, allowing Dan Burn to cover in as a left centre-back to almost appear as a 3-4-3 formation. He understands the centre of the game, when to make appropriate adjustments, and he knows how to coach players up when it comes to ability. This is the perfect recipe for a manager who understands how to win games and potentially get a top 4 place. However, it must be said, Eddie Howe has only the experience when it comes to competing relegation battles, even mid-table scraps. He hasn't been there when it comes to top 4 positions. So when the rubber meets the road, will he have the experience, the know-how of how to grind out results when he needs it when it comes to a top 4 battle? We are yet to see, and we'll have to see when this season progresses. But the ultimate thing which I love about Eddie Howe is the fact that he reminds me of a Pep Guardiola, Jurgen Klopp, maybe not in terms of the level of coaching throughout the last decade or so, but it just feels like everything runs through him. He's the head of the snake. It's not like there's a player with a massive ego who gets all the attention attention, all the buzz, and the over rely on their ability to win you games. It's down to the system. It's not down to individual brilliance. And it's the same thing when it comes to Newcastle United. Whether that's Pep Guardiola, Kevin De Bruyne doesn't need to play every game because you have quality players in and around who know how to obviously perform the system at a high level. Same thing with Liverpool with other key players. I feel like Newcastle don't really have that talisman. Obviously, Guimaraes is becoming that. But as we speak, we saw with St. Maximin. He hasn't been featuring with Newcastle that much this season, and Newcastle are still able to win games. Isaac not even playing yet. So this shows that the system is greater than the parts at hand, and that's why Newcastle have been getting excellent results this season. And system over individual brilliance provides consistency when it comes to results to potentially get into the top 4 this season. Also, the other reason which makes Newcastle a special club when it comes to this season compared to sides like Everton, obviously West Ham, Leicester City, when they have pushed for a top 4 place, is that Newcastle have money. The January transfer market is coming up, which means they can provide strength and depth to the squad to provide even more weapons for Eddie Howe to utilise to potentially break into a top 4 place this season. So it's not like any other side where they've had a finished squad. Newcastle have the financial firepower to compete with the best this season when it comes to a top 4 race. So the next factor I'm going to be talking about is squad depth, and a massive factor to why so many teams have failed and dwindled when it comes to a top 4 race is because they do not have the financial power to compete with the other top 6 sides, to have a gigantic squad, to obviously delegate responsibilities when it comes to European football and cup competitions like the Carabao Cup and the FA Cup. West Ham have struggled with this in the past, only having one registered striker in the last 2 years or so, with Antonio being the only guy. Leicester have struggled in the past when it comes to quality in replacing Jamie Vardy, who pretty much had to play every other game to be the talisman and score goals. So this has been a massive factor because obviously you're going to run your star men into the ground and you're not going to be able to replace them to provide the same sort of consistency when it comes to scoring goals or defending. However, when it comes to Newcastle, I'm not going to sit here and say that Newcastle have the best squad out of the top 6 sides, or maybe not even as strong as the other 6. Maybe there's a 7th strongest side. But I feel like their squad is competent enough to compete with the other top 6 sides when it comes to finishing in the top 4 this season. I feel like it's underrated. I know Newcastle fans will say Guimaraes, he's their star man, he's their talisman, he's their creator, and he's that one bright spark which you can't replace. But I feel like apart from that and Trippier, Newcastle do have abundance of options that they can wane on when it comes to an injury or needing to rotate the squad because of resting other players. We can even see it already this season. Newcastle have had injuries. St. Maximin has been one of their best players for the last 3 or 4 years or so. Isaac is Newcastle's most expensive signing when it comes to their club's history. And even without these 2 missing pieces, Newcastle have been obliterating teams by 4 goals. Callum Wilson has been showing you that he's one of the best strikers within this league. The problem has never been his quality. The problem has been, can we maintain his fitness? Can he maintain healthy throughout a season? And if he can score 15, 16 Premier League goals in a season. Almiron has been chipping in this season, as I said, who has shown the doubters wrong that he's actually a quality player. Murphy can do a job down that left-hand side on the left wing. I feel like other players as well. Chris Wood, maybe he isn't a goal scorer, and maybe obviously you don't want him to start games. But at the end of the day, he provides you a different option. If you're chasing a game and you need to go direct and you're versing smallish defenders who can't handle bully ball, Chris Wood is your option. So going forward already, Newcastle have so many options, a plethora of options. Even Joe Linton can play left wing if a player is injured, like we have been seeing in the last few games or so, and Longstaff replacing him in the midfield. And like I said earlier, although Trippier and Guimaraes will be hard to replace because they're the main source of outlet when it comes to creating chances, I still feel like Eddie Howe will be able to keep their head above water because his system is so effective. They can lead to the defensive performances as we have seen this season, since they have conceded the least amount of goals. And there's no star-studded names when it comes to the centre-backs. There's no Van Dijk, there's no Diaz, there's no Lisandro Martinez from Manchester United. There's actual players who are pretty much average given any other manager, but because Eddie Howe knows how to play defensive structured football when it comes to organisation, they've been excelling. So I feel like even if they do miss these sort of creative spark players, they can easily rely on their defense. So in this this department, I still feel like Newcastle are good and they should be able to compete with the other top 4-6 sides in this country. So the next factor I'm going to be talking about, which may obviously work into the favour of Newcastle, is the fact that they have no European football this season. We have seen in the past when it comes to other sides, they have had to either prioritise the competition or their squad start to wane down in terms of injuries or not being well rested when it comes to Premier League games. We saw Manchester United back in 2017 prioritise the Europa League, which led them to winning it but finished 6th in the league. We also saw West Ham last season not being as successful as Manchester United, prioritising the Europa League, finishing 7th in the Premier League but not being able to compete for a top 4 battle because obviously they were prioritising that competition. The beauty for Newcastle is that they're only playing once a week. They're going to be well rested, they only have one goal in mind, and they can put their whole energy, their whole focus on this competition, the Premier League, and not come into a resting point or being the catch-22 of what competition should we prioritise. Other teams like Arsenal, other teams like Manchester United, other teams like Chelsea and Liverpool, they're going to be in this predicament when it comes February or March time. They're going to be thinking, what better route do we have going into a Champions League spot next season? Is it through the Champions League or the Europa League, or is it through the Premier League? And the fact that they might lean towards one of these European competitions will be in the favour of Newcastle, which may allow them to creep through the back door when it comes to a Champions League spot. Also, the fact that Newcastle this season is a special season, as we know, since the World Cup is going to be mid-season. They're not going to have many players featuring in the starting 11 when it comes to the World Cup. Think about it. The only player which I can think of who is going to be starting, obviously consistently, is Trippier. Everyone else, their star men, ain't going to be starting. St. Maximum isn't going to be starting for France. Guimaraes won't be able to start for Brazil. Pope won't be favoured over Pickford. Almiron's not even in the World Cup because the Paraguay didn't qualify. We know Joe Willock, we know Longstaff. They ain't going to be featuring in Gareth Southgate's squad, not even in the 55-man squad. So imagine this, Newcastle will have well-rested players, only playing once a week, compared to teams who will have players ran into the absolute ground, also playing Champions League football, FA Cup, Carabao Cup football as soon as they come back, only having 2 weeks rest. So Newcastle, this is a golden chance, a golden opportunity to take advantage of a very special, unique season. The last thing which I want to be talking about is Newcastle's mentality. And the thing is, obviously before the season started, they would not be thinking that they were going to finish in a top 4 battle. But obviously during the season progressing, ideas and aims start to change, and potentially this could be happening for Newcastle in the latter half of this season. But the thing is, when it comes to teams, if you don't have the experience or the know-how year in, year out to compete for a top 4 or trophies, it's hard to switch that mentality on, and it's hard not to feel the pressure. We know the biggest reason in life why people fail, or even teams in football, is because they have the pressure. They start to do things which are uncharacteristic, unlike them. They let the pressure get to them, and that's why they dwindle and falter when it comes to their aims. We saw it last season when it came to Arsenal not having the experience or the know-how in the squad when it comes to a top 4 challenge, whereas Spurs have players like Son, Keane, etc. who have been there, done that when it comes to top 4 battles. We also saw it Liverpool back in the 2013-14 season, where we didn't even have any experience within the squad when it comes to title-winning players competing with Manchester City, who 2 years earlier won the Premier League. So I feel like this is a real underrated factor of why Newcastle possibly won't reach the top 4. Other sides have been there, done that, been in top 4 battles, and it's their bread and butter, where this is a new stage which Newcastle will be appearing on, which may cause them obviously a lot of stress. And because of this reason, and solely because of this, I genuinely feel like Newcastle will not finish in the top 4. I feel like you need experience within your squad when things get tough, and you need the right mentality and attitude in the squad to pull you through. Newcastle lack this within their manager, within their players as well. So that's why I feel like Newcastle will not finish in the top 4 this season. So that's why I got Newcastle finishing out the top 4. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section. Where do you think Newcastle can finish? And do you think they can really take it to the last 3 or 4 games? Do you think they have this within their locker? Or do you just feel like right now they're just in great form and it will start to dwindle soon? Thank you guys for watching my video. Hope I see you in the next one. And yeah, let me know your predictions in the comment section.